Well, welcome back to Crown's Crypto Cave. It is an absolutely pitch black morning over here, just the way I fucking like it because, well, no sun getting in the way of my sleep. Although, didn't get the best night of sleep last night anyways, doesn't matter. On to the next one. So let's go take a look at what Bitcoin's doing over here on the Crown Chain application. I do believe yesterday we said a short-term target of 10,300 was very, very likely, and looking at today's morning price, 10,362. All right, so looks like we overshot that. Looks like we have something new to talk about in the low-term timeframes, maybe even sort of kind of, and I imagine that the longer term ranges are still more or less the same. Hey, have you noticed this trend on Bitcoin where it goes sideways for 3 to 4 fucking weeks and then you get 5 minutes of a move and then it's over for the next week? God damn, man. This game is so silly sometimes, but you know what? I guess it's par for the course, and that's what we have to deal with in order to be receivers of this lovely volatility. Unfortunately, though, sometimes on the wrong side of that dildo, so to speak. Anyways, looking at the open interest over here, completely unchanged, basically. Still hanging around that $1.9 billion marker, and that does make sense as essentially we've not really seen even the medium-term time frame range break, just to bounce up to the short-term targets here. Bitcoin dominance coming down about a full percent, a little bit more than a full percent actually. I do believe yesterday was more hovering around a 58% read, now slightly below 57%. And we should take a look at that again today as well, so I do want to follow up on that. Fear and greed index is literally the same as yesterday as it was today, or as yesterday as it is today. There we go, English once again. And what do we have over here on the Bitcoin global funding rate? Is there anything of interest? No, not really. Still 0.02%. This is not worth talking about right now. Fear and greed index is popping back down to those same levels that we saw from June to July of this year, and everything else is, well, not giving us all that much right now. So let's go into the actual price action charts themselves. We'll start it off today with CMEs, as I do think that there are a few more interesting things on CMEs. So first and foremost, we do have bullish divergence coming off the lows, 1, 2, 3 stabs, accordingly with this low, this low, this low. That's what did drive that target up to about 10.3 on spot yesterday, which would be about 10.4 where we are right now on CMEs, but it does this have any more to go? Well, right now we are in the process of potentially making any sort of hidden bearish divergence between this point currently situated on CMEs right around about 10,625. I'm curious what the same point is on spot price action. Actually about the same price point actually, 10,600ish region right here. And that will be available as long as we are trading below there, which is actually right around the 4-hour 377 exponential we have as well. But I'm curious, what time frame does this go up to right now? Let's go to a 6-hour really quick. And what do we see here? Yes, it is. Yes, it is indeed present, or at least potentially present. What about the 10-hour right here? Is it potentially present as well? Would be potentially present as well too. But again, here's the thing. It's going to take a little bit of time for these time frames to actually like put in a little bit of a local high here anyways. So is that really relevant? Well, no. And on the other end, we actually did have a slight, and I completely missed this one myself, but a slight buy signal on the jewel right here. This would have signaled on the 9th of September at 5 a.m. my time. So that was where? That was right around here. Right when price was trading somewhere right around, what is this? It looks like closing price of 10,120. Yeah, it had a nice little range, about $100 both ways. Anyways, is it relevant to think that this still has a little bit more to play out? Yep, I do think so, at least up to this next fib area right here, rather likely. But how high does price action get alongside that? As long as it's kind of below 10,005 or 10,006, that would just be another lower high. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, it's really more or less the same as what we've been saying for the last few days. So while I do think that Bitcoin can have another stab higher here, and actually do think that it likely will stab a little bit higher here, probably like 10.5 or 10.6 on spot price action, does that essentially revert or change anything for even the medium-term timeframes, of which we were documenting this area right here. Sorry, wrong chart. Here we go. This one. Yeah, this one. That's it. Which on a 4-hour, we actually have to move up just a little bit slightly to this local high right here. I think that was charted for a 12-hour or a daily, where it just had it to add about 10.5. This is more like 10.6. So as long as we are below there, there's really no major change in behavior, even for a medium-term time frame trade. Now, if Bitcoin does start to crawl its way back above there, either on a 4-hour closure above 10.6 or a 12-hour or daily closure above 10.5, still the same sorts of implications for targets would, I'd essentially have. I'd be looking for another move back up towards around 10.9 in that $100 liquid zone right here. Of course, course, if Bitcoin does actually overtake that, especially on the higher term timeframes like the 12-hour or daily, I would actually overall get bullish on this asset once again, looking for moves back up towards 11.3 and beyond. But I am rather skeptical right now as Bitcoin puts in time, at these lows, trying to solidify a base at 10,000 bucks. But as long as it's here, man, I still go with the former trend. That's just one of my rules. It doesn't mean that I'm like always going to be right. Doesn't mean that it always means that I will actually always be bearish at the lows and bullish at the highs. But the key to it is flipping around when the actual trend reverts. And right here, that would be, again, right above on a daily closure, about 10.5 in line with the cyan 89 exponential moving average and in the daily 10 simple. And into the downside, we'd just be looking for continuation below 10,100-ish region on those same sort of time frame closures as well, 12-hour or daily. So what's also of interest right here, and I think a very big talking point for a day like today, is two major things. Okay, first and foremost, we have historical volatility percentile, which is very, 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 very hot right now. Typically, though, when you do get into like major highs and major lows, you're going to see it print a series of very high reads, into 85 plus territory. And when you're getting to that sort of territory, that is telling you that the move is very likely coming to, at the very least, a short-term and medium-term end, and that's what we're seeing right now. But we really want to see this kind of extrapolate for, a few days at the very least. And if we fail to see continuation or fail to see another push down below about 10,100, then yes, indeed, it very likely will come with a contraction phase, and that would very likely imply that price action will come back up to the upside right here alongside momentum oscillators, which you can see that daily Stokes very likely do start to turn to the upside at that price point. I would imagine any sort of price point above 10,100, our current closing lows, is going to be get that. And daily RSI, do we have anything here as well? I mean, technically you do have the most anemic case of bullish divergence here. If you like really wanted to get out your fucking magnifying glass between this point and this point, you don't really see these play out for all that much. In fact, when you do see these play out, it typically has to move not to the 21 but to the 10. And in this case, you could say that we've actually almost already got there. That's a red moving average right there, right around 10,540, which would be, again, the top side of that range. So overall, if what I can kind of say right here is that if Bitcoin does essentially fail to break to new lows on this current run, and that would be a daily closure below about 10,100-ish region over the next like 2, 3, 4 days, then I would be looking for it to actually give another test to the upside. Very likely does officially test that 10.6 region on a 4-hour or 10.5 on a daily or 12-hour closure. And if it does overtake that, I would extend those targets another 400, 500 bucks essentially to 10.9, probably even 11,000 bucks. Here's the thing though, there's another competing narrative to what's going on right now, and that is the yellow 21 exponential average and the green 55 exponential average right here. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. Okay, I am recording and the microphone's working. Very proud of that one today. It's been a really rough last like 2 fucking days. So apologies for all the verbal slip ups here. Anyways, okay, cool. So what was I just talking about? Oh yes, that cross right there. Let's take everything else off and get naked on these charts, and we can just go over the history of this for a second here. So this is a cross that is going to usually get a lot better play on daily timeframes, and one of the ones that I do typically pay quite a bit of attention to when it comes alongside a reversal in trend. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's give a good example right on over here. You can see that Bitcoin coming off that last high at about $10,500 did put in a downtrend. And as the downtrend did put in a reversal, and as the trend started to revert to the downside, we get that cross right here on a perfect test of it. And this is picture fucking perfect on what you want to actually see for these major moving average crosses, if you are going to see it actually play out, especially with these two ones in particular on this time frame for Bitcoin is what I've noticed. And looking at this right here, if Bitcoin does work its way back up towards 10.9, it will naturally revert this. So it is also a ticking time bomb on both ways, essentially. Lining up with historical volatility percentile on the daily, and then also looking at this as well, we can see that within the next few days, a direction is going to be chosen here. It's going to be forced upon Bitcoin. And actually strongly believe that the sideways range likely does get resolution very, very likely in the next few days. In fact, just looking at volume signature right here, it's already rather mature. Anyways, going back to the daily over here, I'm not always going to say that this is going to produce like a fucking phenomenal move like this. Technically gives you the signal right here at that closure, and then what happens after that, 51% move to the downside. Okay, that's like obviously, not par for the course always. But let's look at a couple more of these examples and see what they produce. This one over here comes at another reversal as well. Now, it doesn't actually give you the best timing, and if you actually don't zoom in all the way, you will notice, or sorry, you probably won't notice that actually after this point right here, they actually do not cross again to the upside. It's down the whole time, or even stock standard, which is not a reversal of the cross, to be quite clear. Anyways, from this price point right here, which is pretty much, you could average it out somewhere right around about 10.3. Yes, the next major move to the downside. Even if you traded this one terribly, which, you took it like right on the signal right here, not on the actual test of the major moving averages, you'd still have about a 23.5% move to the downside. And in this case, obviously this was not a picture perfect one right there, but it did line up for picture perfect a little bit later, over the next month. Anyways, looks like Sleeping Beauty's up right now, and it's time to make some bathroom noises. Oh, fucking love it. I'll get my forks ready to, cut those poops off. Anyways, works the upside as well, as you can see right on over here from February 2019. Giving you the bullish cross, and that, basically didn't even get didn't get the bearish cross until party was over after about 275% move to the upside. Same thing with more recently right here in 2020 January on this run, again giving you a nice little move for about 31.5% to the upside, and then again more recently right here, which has actually led us up the whole way from, what is this price point, about 7,800 to our $12,000 high as well, about 62%. So, of course, we can go back further in time as well, and you can see this one for yourself. And it's basically more or less the same. We've got the same example right here. Boom, gives you the short signal right there, all the way down to your next major low, 54%. This one over here was a terrible signal, so it doesn't always work out. It's not perfect. No one indicator is perfect on its own. Although, actually, let's just hindsight trade this one for a second. So this is obviously not, perfect, but let's say we took it on the actual signal given. Technically speaking, it does trade low over the next few days. Does give you a chance to get out at a profit of 11%, assuming that you trade it perfectly, which is pretty much impossible. but you get my point. It's potential, right? It's potential, and that's what most of these indicators are. Anyways, looking at this one right on over here, gives you a nice signal right there, going all the way down to another 32.33%. And you'll notice that a lot of these numbers are kind of within the same territory, somewhere between about 25 to 35% on average. Some of the more aggressive ones, yes, they do get into the 50 to 70% moves. We know that, yes, especially this one right here, giving you the short signal actually on that high at about 13,000 before the major drive down, 54% as well. It does happen every once in a while. But it's a lot less likely. And going all the way back and over here, again, you are more than free to test this out for yourself. But I can tell you, after going about it a million fucking times, 1,000,001 fucking times maybe, that they're more or less on par. So if this were to get the bearish cross, and let's say that does come alongside a test of like 10.5 or 10.6 on that way, this would actually be a very, 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 very efficacious cross here. And I'm just curious what this would line up with if we were to play around with some of those numbers in a very bad diabolical way, for the Bitcoin boulas, that is, I guess. Shaving 20% off this price action, or shaving 20% off this price action, would bring us down to the mid 7,000s, which actually would be my target if 9100 does break. So now we have multiple things kind of governing that direction overall. And this is not to say that, I think that we're going down there. Again, I hope that I'm massively abundantly clear with this. As long as Bitcoin's above 9,100, I'm not necessarily looking for a move like this to happen. But if 9,100 does break, it's really not too much holding this baby up from mid to low 7,000s actually. So as it is right now, the Bula still got plenty of things going in their favor on the higher term timeframes, like the weekly right here. As long as we are above the yellow 21 exponential moving average, this has been, yet again another nice way to catch the long term trend in a very simplistic way. Just looking at the slope of the 21 and Bitcoin's relationship to that major moving average. Whenever it's got a positive slope and it's above, generally good. And those are your bullish dumps going all the way back and over here. Boom, boom. The whole way fucking up, basically. The whole way fucking up in 2015 all the way to 2018 right here. More recently in 2019. And works for the downside moves as well. Anyways, as long as we're above this area, I tend to just, tend to just kind of go with it. But overall, if we do start to break below the 21 exponential moving average on a weekly closing basis, which we will see CMEs close tomorrow for the weekly, which, by the way, guess where the 21 is? It's right around $10,000 on CMEs. I'm going to guess that it's probably right around 10,100. What do you fucking know? Oh, isn't that crazy? 10,100 right there. So if we do see CMEs actually break below it tomorrow, that would be a damn good signal that we will be going at the very least to test down around 9,100 region overall. And if that area does fail, I would be looking further south towards the mid 7,000s actually, and that's going to be in line with something else that I think is just better said better presented without really any words, and then you can kind of make the decision for yourself. I think that it's a little bit sombering when you look at a chart like this, and the 200 simple, which has gotten, most of the major cycle lows to date, would be coming in, around the mid to low 7,000s, probably over the next 2 months actually. So this is obviously a lot more of a long-term time frame idea. And again, this is in no way, shape, or form anything that I'm looking for to happen at all whatsoever. Unless 9,100 does break, there would very likely be bounces along the way. I think low $8,000 would be a great area for that, and maybe again at like 7,500, and then maybe we get a slight drive lower. But overall, until those things happen, this is just TA crystal ball bullshit. Anyways, and this is what the actual chart looks like, by the way. If you want a little bit of a dose of reality here, linear scale is technically what this thing actually does look like. But for charting purposes, we got to use log scale here, just because this thing moves in X's rather than percentages more often than not. Okay, so let's go back down to the lower term timeframes. I think we spoke about maybe even too much on the higher term timeframes for now. I don't really want to cover the monthly today or the bi-monthly, of which nothing's changed there. I still have the same thing to say about it. It's still an uptrend. It's still more or less good. But when you're dealing with big numbers, you can come all the way back down to those levels and still fucking still have an uptrend. So again, big numbers are great, but also terrible depending upon your trading style, basically. Anyways, going back on over here to the 4-hour. What do we see for now? We do see that 4-hour stocks are up, but are they still traveling up? Yes, indeed they are. They're just freshly in the bullish control zone. Typically, we'll stay in there for a little bit longer. We do have a trend line forming all the way back on over here, and very likely, or I wouldn't say very likely, but if we do hit around this region, this is where I start to look for a top on this current run in the short-term time frame. So let's go back to our chart over here. Let's go back to our chart that we've been working off. Yeah, this one right here. Again, does that imply that we're going to break 10.6 or not on a 4-hour? It doesn't. It just means that if we do, then very likely we will see that next level hit. But until that happens, if we saw perhaps price action hit up to this level, which is also in line with the 4-hour 55 exponential average as well, plus meeting that trend line and starting to turn down, then not only will we have all of those momentum oscillators positioned in the on the other side, but we'll also have 4-hour hidden bearish divergence here as well, with about 3 stabs on it, which is typically, well, actually no, sorry, it'd be 2 stabs. No, actually, you could say that it's 3 stabs. Yes, it would go all the way back and over here. That was a slight starter step before the next major drive down. That would work. So overall, it all kind of hinges on this level, no matter which way that you cut it for the upside. Again, daily closure above 10.5, 12-hour closure above 10.5, or 4-hour closure above 10.6. And until that happens, there's no real sense in trying to forecast something like that. That's just not real technical analysis. That's more so crystal ball bullshit, and that's not what trading is, at least in my experience. 3-hour, what do we see here? I think the 3-hour had a lot more of an obvious jewel buy signal, or this is obviously a more aggressive one right here. And someone was asking yesterday, like, how do you judge these buys, or like, don't you think, if you get a buy signal right here, you can't just, you can't just trade that perfectly? And it's like, well, you're right. You can't just trade it perfectly. I mean, you don't need to trade it perfectly in order to make money. That's my point. Looking at something like this, for example, we got the signal right here. So let's actually pin this. Let's pinpoint this one, and let's do our best job to not hindsight trade this one, which is already not a perfect signal to begin with. So more aggressive people would be taking signals right here at 6 a.m. on the 9th of September. That's my time, Eastern European time zone. So it is relevant to think that actually some people would take that. That was coming out of this base right here on a dildo that traded all the way from about 99.82 all the way up towards 10,130. So if you hindsight trade that one and buy it literally at the top of it, are you still in profit? Well, about $200, $250 it looks like right now, and you had a chance to get out another $50 higher. It looks like at 10,450 or 10,430ish region, and it doesn't necessarily look like it's like that done right now either. And if you were a little bit more conservative with it, waiting for the full on signal to give itself, that would have been right here at 9 a.m. Or let's even take it a step further. Let's say that you're just late to the fucking party. You know, you woke up later and you take it and you see it at like 12 and it's like already kind of in its own way. Let's see what that looks like too. 12 a.m. would be, or sorry, 12 and at noon would be right here. Again, another dildo that had a pretty wide range actually, you know, comparatively speaking to what we're looking at, 10-150 all the way up to 10-330-ish region. Again, you know, if you did buy anywhere within there, would you be in profit right now? Yes. And is there more, you know, is there more to go on this one? Probably, yeah, to be fair. Or actually, this one already is getting up to that fib, but I wait for the 4 hour to probably pop up there as well. Anyways, the way that I typically do it with the Jewel, like if I were actually trading the signal myself, which I didn't, I did not take the signal. I didn't really trade yesterday. I think I made one trade, and that was fucking it wasn't the best day for ranges right there, at least on the low, at least on like the ones that I really want. But let's say we played it as you're supposed to play it, you know, right here, take the signal at 9 a.m. So night, you know, not giving it a better entry, but not giving it a worse entry. So that'd be this guy right here. And that one, let's just say that we bought at the top of this dildo, 10,200-ish region on that little wick. Like we got the worst position on it possible. Well, what I'll always do with something like that, assuming that I took this on the same time frame, a 3 hour, is I'll just mark my way up to the next local high and I'll take position off right there. I always take position off, you know, at the next relevant resistance for that time frame. So if I'm trading a 3 hour, I plot on a 3 hour. In this case, you know, there's your next local high. Take off some right there. Sometimes I take off all of it, but in this case right here, I'd probably looked at momentum oscillators like Stokes as well and said, well, still looking north here, and overall, you know, probably worth it to get rid of some of it, maybe half, maybe a third, and then hold the rest for perhaps the next horizontal, or wait for a divergence play, which I typically look for on the same time frame. You know, on the RSI obviously, but sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit more aggressive with it, or if I feel like it might turn against me, I'll just go down to like a third of that time frame, in this case an hourly, and if I start to see divergences forming here, I'll take off the rest. And in this case right here, I actually do see a little bit of divergences forming. So, you know, if this does put in a local high right here, we actually will have a little bit of bearish divergence, and I would be looking for another move back down towards 10-270. Doesn't necessarily mean that the run is over, but for myself, would I want to get out of that position, just take profit? Yes, I would. So, you know, fair enough. You know, there's plenty of ways to do this, and that's why I always say for anyone who's actually in that in that program, which there's actually just very few people actually, then you know, your skills with traditional TA is going to serve you well there, just because, you know, it's going to give you more variability on how you manage your positions, and so there you go. Anyways, and I hope that answers that question, because someone was like very adamant about that in the comment section, and fair enough. You know, I'm happy to answer those questions. I think that's what he was asking for, and hey, all good. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna get rid of that one right there. Is that trend line still relevant? It is relevant. It's just it's not really relevant to the time frames that I want to look at right now. It's very short term. But while we are here on the short term time frames, let's see if there's anything, you know, signaling itself off for a short-term move here with regards to historical volatility percentile. What do we see? Popping up a little bit. Not anything too crazy. We've seen an OVAR contraction phase since the 4th of September, it looks like. That makes sense, because that's this whole range right here. I would suspect that once this gets to its apex, which it's actually rapidly starting to approach, I think that this would likely line up with the end of this week, something like this. Yeah, this would suggest that we do have resolution somewhere around the 11th or 12th. So that's about a little bit less than a week, like 4 or 5 days. And what, we're on Thursday already? Let me actually check my, let me consult with my calendar. Yeah, late this weekend, early next week, very likely. And in the range here, obviously 1060 the upside on the very low time frames, 10.5 on 12-hour daily, to the downside 10,000 to 10,100 region, depending upon what time frame that you're using as well. I'd use a lower ball target for a lower term time frame, like a 4 hour. I would use about, what is this, 4 hour load? God damn it. Trading view, motherfucker. Trading view, sir. Why no work? Okay, mine's working again. Elsa broke the internet. God damn it. Anyways, yeah, so that would line up with a break on the lower term time frames here. Let's go back to this 4 hour. Oh, thank God it loaded. 99.50 actually would be that same area. So on a 4 hour, 99.50 to the downside or 10.60 upside is how to be using that. And let's go down to like a very low time frame. Sometimes the 30-minute actually gets it a little bit better on volatility. For whatever reason, it's the lower term time frame that actually get the lower term time frame range a lot better. How crazy is that? I've just noticed that, like, you know, the 30-minute, hourly, and sometimes even the 15-minute get it really, 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 really well when you're looking at any sort of a move for like a 4 hour and below. So it's like some sort of a factor of 4, I think. Although I haven't really tested that, so I think I should probably back off on making those sort of statements. It's like probably can't prove it just yet, but it's something to definitely look into. Anyways, if I did have to call this right now, I do think that Bitcoin is going to test a little bit higher here, probably somewhere right around 10.5, maybe 10.6 officially. I don't have an opinion on whether it breaks it or not. I don't have anything to add really. You know, like I said, that is crystal ball shit. I only have an opinion if it does break. I extend that move another $400 about, and if it doesn't, well, then potentially we have some hidden bearish divergence play out, and we come all the way back down to the bottom side of the range at 10,000, and then you get the range of fucking death and decay for another week longer, baby. Oh man, you gotta love it. You gotta fucking love it. If you're gonna trade this asset, you have to fucking love this. Anyways, maybe quickly look at CMEs as well. Actually, someone sent me a Twitter message the other day. By the way, I almost never check Twitter. I'm very, 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 very bad at what's it called? Communicating there and engaging there. Yes, that's the word. But every once in a while I do check it. So I hope that it's not taken an offense when, you know, when I don't respond to these things, like, you know, on the same day. But someone called out, I believe her name was Natalia, actually, very beautiful name. But she called out that actually on the monthly for CMEs, Bitcoin has not closed on higher highs. And you know what? She's right. She's 100% right here over here. But that's also a little bit of an issue with the way that the premium is documented here. Now, I don't want to speak out of turn. I want to actually confirm this first. Did this happen at the earliest part of the month? No, it actually didn't. Yeah, it was actually late in the month. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough then. No, CMEs did not print higher highs. That is correct, and this is a massively different chart than what we see over here on spot price action. Now, what does this line up with? I mean, overall, I think that when you're looking at the longer term price action, it doesn't make as much sense to use CMEs because there's just not that much history here to be going off of. So that does mean that it's going to be a little bit less trustworthy. You know, compare it to something like this where we can populate all major moving averages up to an 89, which is not even that good to begin with, by the way. And then CME is like we barely even have a 21. You know, it's you know, it's very, 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 very lackluster here. So I am hesitant to put so much weight on this. However, you know, it is a truth of the market right now that did not occur while spot price action did. But I would put more interest on spot price action because it fits my bias that long term this thing is bullish and short term this thing is probably bearish. But overall, you know, looking at the monthly bulb we are here, where does the 21 come in around? Actually, sorry, where's the 10 symbol coming around? 9100ish region. I think that's also very interesting because it does line up with the bi-monthly as well. Coming in at the same level, which would be a backfill on July open, that same area, 9150-ish to be exact. And this is quite literally an uptrend. So do we have an uptrend on the bi-monthly for CMEs? No, actually, no, we don't. No, we don't. But we don't really have anything here. We have a low, we have a high, we have a potentially higher low, but we do not have a higher high. It's trendless. I mean, there's not really anything to make out of this. It's neither up nor down. It's just too young. It's too young. You can't judge it. But seriously, it actually is too young. Anyways, you know, I feel like we've spoken mostly about the upside in today's video thus far. And while I do think that short term the upside is likely here, 10.5 or 10.6 is rather likely actually. Where's my fucking chart? Why do I keep on populating that one? Yeah, that one, by the way, is no longer relevant either because we actually have printed a higher high above this little swing right here. So, or actually, let me measure this one out. Closing price 10,379.5. Closing price 10,375.5. Wait, did I say that? 79.5, 75.5. Oh, technically we actually didn't print a higher high. Let's go check out CMEs right here. CMEs look like they did 375, closing 379. This is like opposite. What the fuck? What about Stamp? Stamp says 377 closing versus 376 close. I mean, it's probably going to be a continuation there, to be fair. Like we're really fucking analyzing, you know, dick hairs right now. This is insane. Anyways, okay. So let's go. I suppose it is still relevant to talk about the downside here. But again, I'm not really looking for further downside out of this base right here until we actually do fully and formally break below 10,000 on a 4-hour daily closure, 10,100 on a 12-hour or daily. If that were to happen, I do believe that Bitcoin would come all the way down to that 9,100-ish level overall, with very likely a bounce along the way at about 9,450 to 9,500-ish region. I'm curious what the volume profile would say here, and yeah, the volume profile would also agree that we do have a nice thick AF node coming in right around where. Actually, right around that whole cluster at the $9,100 base, but it would suggest probably some time gets spent between about 91 and 93, and potentially and very likely, very likely a strong bounce, potentially reverse within that region as well. For right now, we're kind of in no man's land as far as the short-term time frames go. Let's go over here to the daily for now, and let's see what this would look like, just out of curiosity. Yeah, we have a pretty big range here. It's either 11.3 or 10.5 essentially, or well, I mean, kind of where we are right now, actually 10.8, or sorry, 9. Oh my God, man, I cannot get my words out right at all. 9.5 to 9.8. Holy shit, I am literally dyslexic. This is embarrassing. But yeah. Anyways, we can go down to very low time frames right here and just see if this lines up with our areas as well. Yeah, order block would be basically this whole thicker area right here, above 10.5, 10.6. Very little stopping you from actually 11.3. So you know what? I believe maybe something more will be revealed if I look at it like this. Yeah, there we go. That shows more action $11,000 base. So what I would say actually, with granted that information is a break above 10.5, 10.6 on those relevant time frames, basically looking for a test of 11,000. Just make it nice and even, and very likely probably does work its way back towards 11.3 after that as well. As I'd also interpret that as essentially undoing the impending doom cross that we looked at earlier between these two babies right here. And if that does happen, then we're probably going to get more or less the same on the macro uptrend. So again, right now I do think that Bitcoin is in a potential bottoming area. I mean, so many wicks like this, as we spoke about yesterday and the day prior, accumulated within this region, makes you not really want, makes you think that the next move is going to be the upside. And I think that that's what we're seeing right here. It works to the same way to the downside as well. Man, I need some coffee because I just cannot fucking speak. This is insane. This is fucking insane right now. All right. I've spoken enough shit for 31 minutes. Let's go check out NASDAQ futures. We did pop up and hit our $11,400 target. I do think that this one could potentially have a little bit more if it does take out the 21 exponential moving average at about that same area. If basically if it gets a close above 10.4, or sorry, oh my God, I'm doing it again. 11.4, 11.4. I'd look for extension all the way back up here towards 10. Oh my God, again. If anyone's playing a drinking game with all this shit, I just killed like everyone. But 11, what is this? 11,750? Yeah, somewhere back around here. But until that happens, pressure is still to the downside. I actually do happen to think that this is fully topped out. We did hit our very long-term target at the 4.236 pivot extension right on over here, and also the two extension if you're looking at the whole cycle, both extremely relevant and usually something that you do see on major parabolic blow-off tops, of which you might say that this is one. So while I do think that it could very easily have another nice move to the upside, like I said, to about 11,750, just like Tesla, I do think that it's mostly topped out here, and the direction is going to be testing down over the next couple months. Looking at the weekly, what does the weekly look like? Yeah, the weekly looks like it still wants to carry out a little bit more of a bounce. With the same sort of relevant areas, essentially. There's nothing really of interest there to talk about. On the 4-hour, is there anything here to be aware of? We do see hidden bearish divergence also formulating itself here as well. 3 stabs, 2, which is usually 3 strikes you're out. 1, 2, 3 right there. But this is not confirmed a local high just yet. It will confirm a local high if it closes below the 200 simple, which is 11,355. So if that does happen, I would look for a retest of the lows, and that probably leads us into Friday for the weekly closure. And if we close on the if we close on the on the lows again for the weekly, I'm going to look for big moves to the downside coming into the next couple of weeks. 10,450 would be the next major target, and then after that, very likely actually slightly below 10,000, maybe like 9,800ish region. By the same token, E-mini futures for SPY, I'd probably be looking for about the same thing. Daily, if we do close above if we close above, oh my God, yeah, we did hit our $3,400 target right there too. If we do close above that same level, I'd look for an extension, another test back up towards, 34.50 to 35. Let's just call it 34.75. But until that happens, direction is still down, pressure is still down, and I imagine that we probably even have the same sort of hidden bearish divergence on the same fucking 3 stabs. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 strikes, you are out. But I'd use the same management point as well. 200 simple right here. If that does get broken to the downside, I'd look for that to play out all the way back down to the lows at 3,300. Probably another short-term bounce implied there as well, but it will set it up for continuation into the next couple weeks to our further south targets at around 3,200, and then I'd want to see things after that as well. Well, that's usually going to be a nice bounce area anyway, so fair enough. Okay, what about gold? How's gold doing? It usually trades with Bitcoin as well, and gold catching its footing here too. Yes, this is technically making a descending triangle, but it's not acting like one. Or at least it's not for now. I mean, we're about to see daily Stokes turn back up to the upside. Daily Jewel actually did give a sell signal right here. This could be a good example of the Jewel not being perfect, as it actually did give a decent one there. This would be on the 3rd of September, so that was where? That was, yeah, this one's actually been a rather bad one thus far, respectively speaking. Did give you a decent move to the downside, again, assuming that you perfectly traded it, which is pretty much impossible at 1.86%. But that's not really looking what you're looking for on a signal like that. This one looks like it wants to test the upside to me, probably back up towards 1970 and probably even 2000. And how's that going to make the weekly look like? Well, if the weekly just closes above the 10 simple, I'd still kind of favor this as maybe a consolidation here. I'm not as confident on calling a high on gold as I am on like Tesla, for example. Looking at a Tesla chart like this is a lot more obviously a long-term top. And while I do think it is a long-term top, that's not to say that it's just going to like shoot straight down to the fucking floor today. It's probably actually going to bounce today. In fact, maybe even bounce tomorrow as well. I don't think that gunning for about $400 again is all that out of question. But as long as this baby is below, especially 450, this thing's topped out. So I do think that it's going to kind of wrap up my thoughts here. Do you think it's going to bounce? Probably bounce all the way back up to $400, maybe even beyond there. But as long as long as we're getting daily closures below about 450, I'm looking at this as the next major top, and this is going to work its way down to probably $300 to $200 over the next like 6 months to a year. I actually do strongly believe that. Call me crazy. Anyways, what else do we want to look at? Maybe euro dollar really quick. Bouncing up a little bit as well. Everyone's getting a small bouncy today, a little bit of a bouncy today, huh? Hidden bullish divergence initiated between this point and this point. I'll be looking for this one to pop back up towards 118.5 region, it looks like. But still, long term, do I think that this one's topped out? Well, I have the same things to say here as I have for the last 2 to 3 months now. As long as we're closing weeklies below 119.5, that's my next reversal area. I'm not going to be the first one to front run a reversal of trend that has been going for the last 12 years since March 2008. So that is that's that, I suppose. But again, is this going to top out today and like shoot all the way down to 115 in the same day? No, it's probably going to happen over the next few months. If it is going to happen, for right now, very very short term, yeah, very likely to bounce back up, back into the mid size of this range, like 118.5 region. What else do you want to check out? Okay, I think that does that for that. What about Mr. Buterol? Do we see anything of interest there? Oh my God, man, this thing really got popping off. Very, 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 very likely to test a little bit higher here, probably like 390-ish region. Mr. Buterol thinks that makes me think that Bitcoin will actually break to the upside, above that 10.5, 10.6 region and initiate targets towards 11,000, as that's kind of about the same area, same territory that Mr. Buterol is at right now. So how do momentum oscillators line up with that? We do see that daily Stokes are pointing back up here as well too. Good. Daily RSI is about to regain the exponential after rejection of the bearish control zone. Also good. I would say that this one's more likely to pop back up, not just $400, but probably, again, taking it one step by one step. But if we can close, let me just kind of curtail my language a little bit more here. If we can close a daily above, let's call it 390. A little bit less than 390. Let's call it 385. Yeah, 385. I'd be looking for extension on this run all the way back up towards the top side of the former range, about 410 to 415. Where's this level coming in right here? Yeah, about 415 actually. 415 is where I'd be looking towards. somewhere in this little liquid zone right here, kind of a small one, not really all that helpful, but again, still going one step by one step above this area. I do get full on bullish for like a new high on this run, this area being 415. By the same token, you know, same things for Bitcoin. If we do break below the range lows right here at about 340 on a daily closure, I'd be looking for big moves down towards $300 and actually lower than that over time, probably 275 over time. Okay, what else do we want to look at? Let's actually look at the total market cap. I'm curious if there's anything of note here. Man, my voice is just wrecked today. Holy shit. Looks a little bit more bouncy as well. Probably back up towards 331 billion. What else do we have to see here? Maybe on a weekly. So anything of note as well. Still holding the 10 symbol, still holding the 21, still is a positive slope. Hard to hate for right now. You know, could everything kind of revert around right here? Yeah, possible, definitely possible. But still, I'd be still watching the same areas on Bitcoin. You know, nothing more, nothing less. Let's go take a look at Trollinger bands as well. Yeah, Trollinger bands have caught wind of the bottom Trollinger band. We failed to close below the bottom side Trollinger band too many times, man. And typically after that, you actually will get a test up to the 20 simple. And guess where the 20 simple is? It's right motherfucking here, 11,000. So, you know, if I'm being a little more aggressive, what would I say about today? I probably Bitcoin comes up and does take out 10.5, 10.6, especially looking at what Mr. Buteau has done. And then does it test 11,000 after that? Most likely, yes. But again, level by level, you know, that's just my rule, and that doesn't mean that you have to trade that way either. Just my rule that's kind of kept me safe over the years, and you might find that helpful, you might not find that helpful. MACD is also drastically loosening its grip as well. You can see that the histogram is starting to fade away quite a bit. We see both the signals starting to converge on each other rapidly. Still got a ways to go there, but overall, you know, Bitcoin is going to have a chance to move to the upside. Very likely does happen from this region right here. If not 9100 is where I'm looking towards potential another reversal. And if that area fails, then it's big bad downs all the way to probably the mid 7,000s if I had to guess. But I'd want to see that one in real time. I think that'd be a little bit premature to be calling anything right now. Let me see how long this video has been. It's already been 41 minutes. What the hell? What the fuck are you watching this all the way for? Sorry, my TA fellow nerds. You have to deal with all my verbal quips. Don't know what the hell's going on today though, man. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself, but you know, let's wrap this bitch up. I do think that Bitcoin's going to test back up here towards like 10.5, 10.6, very likely. Does it overtake that level? Well, some other things in the market would suggest yes, like Mr. Buteau. What happens if that level is broken on a 4-hour above 10.6 or a 12-hour or daily above 10.5? I would extend targets all the way up towards basically 11,000, give or take a few bucks there, and above 11,000, you know, would I get full on bullish once again? Most likely yes. At least I'd be looking for a move into the upside of the top side of the $11,000 range, and by contrast, you know, to the downside, same areas as before, although we did have to change them around a little bit of fuckery in this region, but hey, that's par for the course in this land. And anywhere below on a 4-hour closure, about 10,000, 99.50, I would be targeting moves essentially down short term to 94.50 with extension to 91. Daily closure below 10,100 would do the same thing for me as well. Anyways, that's where I'm gonna leave it off today. I want to wish you all once again, take care, and until next time.